Life doesn't pause when you're sick. Vaccines against respiratory illnesses can help protect you and give you more playtime with your best friend. Depending on age and health status, vaccinations for flu, COVID-19, RSV, or pneumococcal infection may be recommended. Vaccines can help keep you from having a rough time. Learn more at cveep.org/vaccines-protect. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and CVEEP, fighting infectious respiratory disease.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
I want to talk about the Paycheck prison. Now, there are two different types of Paycheck prisons. I am most certainly in one right now. And the one that I'm in is the kind that I am actually very happy that I didn't pass go and I went directly to jail, because it's the type of Paycheck prison to where I have so much freedom and I can choose how hard or how soft I want to pull on that money lever. And it's been a really good year for me this year, and I am just pulling down super hard. Now the caveat to that is that I know how tiring it's been for me. And so I have strategies for Q1 as we go into our new year of making sure that I'm taking more advantage of my assistant and that I'm doing things to be able to, I'll be a little bit more strategic and intentional is what I have mapped out for the beginning of the year. The other type of Paycheck prison is when a lot of the time, people, officers especially, will get caught up in the job that they do and they get paid really well typically and have great benefits, great retirement coming to them, and yet they hate what they're doing and it breaks them every single day.
Yeah, being so tied into the money that you have incoming. And I think one factor with this is, I see, you have a lot of new, younger officers who've never had this steady income where they're making decent money and they're like, oh, I want a boat. I want a trailer. I want all these things. And so they get tied into having to work this overtime, having to do this stuff on a bigger scale, because just to keep up with their bills and to keep up with what they're purchasing and the lifestyle that they're creating. And it turns into, instead of just being, your job, your career, and something that you signed up for the job to enjoy it, and you start out enjoying it, but now it's to go to work today, and it turns into a negative dynamic.
I'm thinking of two people in particular who are in really unhealthy situations at the places that they work. They're not police officers, and I have seen their health deteriorate so much to the extent that they've had to take time off because of the way that work is impacting their health. And what I have seen too, when I show up and, they reach out and I try to be supportive and, coach them through what they're feeling and what they're going through, the end result is, I hate using this comparison, but it's the best one that I have in my mind right now. When you have an abused spouse and they're not at that point yet where they're ready to leave their spouse, and we know how difficult that transition time is for you to be able to leave. And it's the same thing when you're caught up in a job that is literally taking years away from your life. And I can actually say this from personal experience too. You have to be at the point to where you say to yourself, this is enough. Enough is enough. And I don't give two fucks anymore. And I could promise you, if you're waking up every morning and the first thing that you think about is that terrible job that you have to go into, that is your sign that you need not to work there anymore. And I see a lot of police officers that go through this cycle of, oh, I don't want to go to work and things really suck. And, you, Clint, during graveyard, you had more apprehension of wanting to go to work, and it had nothing to do with I hate the job and hate the people that I work with. It had more to do with the schedule just sucking. And yet there was hope because we knew that your schedule wasn't going to stay that way forever. However, when there are circumstances that just don't seem to be remedying themselves no matter what you've tried to do, and a lot of the times it will be perpetuated and things will get worse. That's what happened in my case, right? It got terrible. It got absolutely terrible, like being pulled outside and being told that the person that I worked for thought that I worked for the president because she hated the president. So like crazy, but like psycho shit, right? And it only gets worse, and it usually impacts your health in a much more detrimental way.
Yeah, it's crazy how much stress and how much, that discontent can affect your physical health so much. And you can see that and recognize that within yourself. But if you're not paying attention to it, you might not correlate it that it's even causing those stressors on your physical health, to where you're just kind of, let me put another Band-Aid on. Let me put another Band-Aid on. And you're not actually addressing the true problem.
So this is actually the sunk cost fallacy, because you believe that you've already invested so many years into the job that you have to keep going until retirement, even if it's hurting you. But I will question you this. What happens if you have 10 more years to retire and you suck it up and you have all of these health problems, high blood pressure, hyperthyroid, like whatever you have going on, and then you get to retire and you didn't know it, but 10 years was just taken off the end of your life. Is it really worth doing that? Like, wouldn't you rather be have this vitality and be happier going and doing something else? Because there are so many options out there. And I think that the truth, and going back to the two examples of the people that I was referring to, the truth is that a lot of the times we don't want to have to put ourselves through an uncomfortable situation of having to make that change ourselves. A lot of the times you've been in this job for so many years that even the mere thought of having to interview with somebody else and, building a resume and like going through the whole process, it makes us feel like we're taking steps back. But in reality, we're actually putting more investment into our lives in all reality.
It's so funny. We had this retiree breakfast at our station the other day, and I went through there just to say hi to some people, and I saw a guy that I worked with for a long time, and I looked at him, and before I even said anything to him, I'm like, man, he looks really good. And so I would go over, him and I talked for a little bit, and I'm like, he said, yeah, it was hard at first for retirement because I didn't know what I was going to do. He's all, but I'm busier now than I was actually working. And because he found his niche, he found what, he's enjoying to do. And he's not working for anyone else. He's doing stuff that he's enjoying, and he's selling products in a different avenue. And I'm talking with him. I'm like, man, I've known him for a long time. I've never seen him this happy, look this healthy, and he's getting older. His physical age is getting older, but his body and his mind looks younger than he's ever been as long as I've known him.
That's really cool to hear. And it would either go one way or the other. And so I think too that if you're that person who is constantly saying things like, I have 11 years and 4 months left, and that becomes the center of your identity and the center of your conversation, you're probably in a situation that's unhealthy, because instead of you living your years, you're just counting them down.
If you have that time clock going all the time, and I think everybody, especially when you're working for someone else, you're always having a time clock going. Like, I love what I do. I enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm still always like, in the back of my mind, there's the countdown clock, because I'm looking forward to the adventures that I can have once I'm done actually being tied to my day-to-day job.
Yeah, and you're so good at this, Clint. There are ways to be able to break free from this without actually quitting your job tomorrow. And I think one of the most important things is to rebuild your identity outside of the badge or outside of what it is that you do for work by incorporating hobbies and different roles and friendships and purposes. And who are you outside of what you do for work? And I think too, to create a transitional plan. Before I left my place of work, I had that transitional plan already in motion. And so it could be something like creating a 1 to 3 year plan. You don't have to jump ship right away, but figure out, even if you tell yourself right now, like, I'm not actually going to quit my job, but if I did in 1 to 3 years, how would I lay out this plan? And you actually start to put those actions into motion, like fill in all the boxes of step 1 through 100 and take action on each one of those, then you might completely change your mind. And, they say that rock bottom is actually when you stop digging. And in the case of the friends I was sharing the example of, like they're not at the point yet to where they want to stop digging. And what's going to happen is either number one, something so detrimental to your health is going to take you out of the job, or number two, you just might lose your spouse because of all of the stress that you're bringing into the home.
Yeah, and you don't want to let it get that far to where someone else has that control over you, because ultimately that's what it comes down to, is they're controlling you, you're not controlling you.
And when you're at that point and you decided to stop digging, then it's also time to start saying no to any additionals, right? It's not unless you have to, like mandatory overtime, it's not in your job analysis to do all of that above and beyond stuff that made you that shining employee, because you might think that it makes a difference, but all that it's doing is putting more of the workload on you. So in that transition, it's okay to say no, and you can talk about the job honestly at home. Be transparent with somebody who's a confidant that you can actually share how hard things are, and consider coaching, right? That if I hadn't hired my first coach, I would probably still be working in the medical field, which I would never want to do now. Looking back, I would never want to work for somebody else.
And that's where coaching was huge. I mean, that honestly, that changed both of our lives for definitely the good. And because it gave us that dynamic, it opened our eyes to say, you know what? Why are we in this hamster wheel that we're going through every day?
Something else crazy is like working where I worked, I thought like, man, this is success, right? This is what success looks like. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, like what a miserable person I worked for. What an unorganized organization that I was a part of. How awful was this whole entire, like it is not what I thought it was. Now looking back, I wish I would like run into those people and smile as I look down.
Yeah. And it's funny, like in that time, you're like, this is success, right? But now you look at it like that was prison. And it wasn't success. And it's so crazy when you can have that mind shift and that dynamic change.
If you're going through it, I can promise you that once you're out of there, you're going to look back at your life and realize just how happy you are that you decided to make that change for yourself. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.